We all have different goals and different intentions. So the way that you would set up your energetic space is going to be in line with what you want, what your intentions are for that space. Your bed space where you sleep and relax, it's going to have a different intention than your kitchen or your office space. In the bedroom, you might want to have soft pinks, you might want to have hearts, you might want to have two of things. So instead of having one lamp, you would want to have two lamps because that's going to create partnership.
Welcome to the Wellness Amazon podcast, where we talk about everything body, mind, and spirit, health, and wellness. No subject is taboo here, and we have fun peeling back all the layers. Let's do this. Well, welcome, everybody. New episode of the Wellness Amazon podcast. Today, we have Jess from A New Day Enlightenment, and we're going to talk about many, many things. We're going to talk about a little bit about Feng Shui because she does that, and it is really hard to find people who do that, by the way. And then we're going to talk about Jess's specialty on how she does readings for people, but we're going to get into this and let her explain how that works. So welcome, Jess. I'm very glad you're here.
And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time and your show. So I want to just express some gratitude to start off. Thank you for all that you do and all of the information that you're spreading. And, in the new age that we're kind of entering, where it's going to be accepted. So it's a wonderful thing. So my name is Jess, and I am the owner-operator of A New Day Enlightenment Services. I am also an author and a metaphysical coach, and I'm starting to dabble in some international speaking as well.
Oh, all right. So tell us a little bit about what is Feng Shui for somebody who has never heard of it, and how did you get there?
So my story is a little interesting. I started kind of waking up a little bit around 2020 with COVID. So I just, when I was in my 20s, these things kind of interested me, but I never really did a deep dive. And so COVID kind of woke a lot of people up. I think next year we're going to see something very similar. So I've kind of incorporated a lot of modalities, which we'll kind of talk about at the end. But right now, focusing on Feng Shui, it literally breaks down to wind and water. So it's the study of how energy moves through the space that we occupy. So the same way that wind moves through the land or water follows a path, it's really about creating harmony between the person and their environment. So your home can support your mindset, your health, and your spiritual life as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a little bit about, I guess, home setup and the energy you create with certain things in your house or in your apartment.
That's what it is now. So originally, when we were still kind of settling territory and trying to figure out farmland and things like that, it originally started out more of like a way for people to find prosperous land and things where the energy were easier to build on. But now we just kind of get our little piece and we focus on that.
Right. Okay. It's always my favorite question on the show. What is Feng Shui not? What's the biggest misconception you usually have to clear up?
Well, Feng Shui is not superstition. It's not about charms or special decor. True Feng Shui it's not about putting an object in a corner of your room and you put this plant there and then you win the lottery. It won't do that. It's a lot more complex. I actually started following Marie Diamond, which is a bit of an expert on the subject at the beginning of the year. She was talking, today, 2025 is the year of the wood snake. So there's a lot of change, a lot of transformation this year. And she was saying, if you put the numbers 168, and then like the 1 is gold and the 6 is blue and the 8 is orange, or I'm probably mixing it up, but you use those 3 colors and those 3 numbers and you put them in your prosperity corner or direction, and wealth will enter your house. And it's a lovely thought. But it's a little more complex than just hanging some colored numbers in a corner. Energy flow comes down to more than one action.
Okay. And I mean, we have all heard these, what you were just describing, right? When people talk about this, that there's these certain pictures you have to put there, or what not to do. That's always like a big one that I hear. So when you talk about elements, what do the elements, how do they, I guess, influence our spaces?
So if so talking about elements, you've got the wood, wind, fire, earth, and metal. So
Hmm.
in the topic of elements, your wood element is going to be growth and flexibility. Your fire is going to be illumination and passion. Earth is going to speak to stability and nourishment. Metal is going to be clarity and precision. So, and then your water is going to be all about flow and intuition.
Okay. So would that be, let's say, in an office, right? Is this something like a good rule of thumb where you're like, okay, I want some creativity and passion. So maybe I put, I don't know, fire elements in there, maybe?
Yeah, so everybody has their own directions. They break it down. You have four favorable and four unfavorable directions.
Mhm.
And it's based off of whether you're in the East group or the West group. And that comes from a number that they actually calculate off of the year you were born and the Chinese New Year. So,
Mhm.
for example, I am an 8 and you are a 4. So you would put that information in, and you're a West group and I'm an East group. So our directions are literally the opposite. And then based on your favorable directions, you would put various elements in those directions for prosperity. So if you're trying to get clarity, then you would put that in a favorable direction for that. So a metal object, like a metal bowl, a bronze bowl. And then you'll also see people for prosperity, they'll put like a bowl of gold coins in that direction as well, because you're just kind of creating that energy. So it kind of, because you always hear you attract what you are. So you're kind of just creating that almost illusion so that the universe can kind of catch up and materialize it for you.
Mhm. So looking at this whole concept, which I didn't know a lot about it, so I had to look up some stuff to a little bit prepare about this, right? So there's two buzzwords that came up that I was like, what now? One was the Bagua map. I don't even know if I'm butchering this. And one was the Kua number. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the coup number was what I was just talking about, the 4 and the 8, which tell
Hmm.
you your favorable and unfavorable directions. And once you have those, then you can really start to create your environmental energy.
Hmm.
The map is a little, so that's basically the number will give you directions, but the map will take into account your specific space. So
Hmm.
it's literally mapping out parts of your space. So then you can place things in the appropriate favorable directions based on the desired energetic outcome. So they kind of
Okay.
work hand in hand.
Okay. So it does matter with how you're setting things up in your home.
Yes. And something to keep in mind with Feng Shui also is it's not it doesn't have to be exact. Energy is very understanding. If you have a setup where, like, for instance, in my setup, southeast is my prosperity. But
Hmm.
a lot of homes, your door is either facing north or south or east or west. So your walls run that way too. So it's really hard to kind of get, a southwest or a southeast to be facing. So it's kind of like, for me, I have my desk set up and it's facing south, but my monitors are kind of tilted over on the desk. So it's kind of in that southeast direction. So little subtleties go a long way. It doesn't have to be exact when you practice, it's more about intention.
That's so interesting because I always thought that the concept is more like written rules and set rules on how to set up a house. But what you're saying is no, it depends who lives there. It doesn't just depend about you doing things in your home. It depends who is the person who lives there, and they might need different things than another person.
Yes, absolutely. We all have different goals and different intentions. So the way that you would set up your energetic space is going to be in line with what you want, what your intentions are for that space. Your bed space where you sleep and relax, it's going to have a different intention than your kitchen or your office
Mm-hmm.
space. Are you trying to be productive? Are you trying to create a loving space for partnership? You know, like in the bedroom, you might want to have soft pinks, you might want to have hearts, you might want to have two of things. So instead of having one lamp, you would want to have two lamps because that's going to create partnership. And so anybody having one lamp in the bedroom, you might want to reconsider.
Right. So do you do house visits?
Would absolutely love to do a house visit. I am a little new to this, so I'm still working on my practice and my business as well. But I would really love to have the opportunity to go to somebody's house and help them set everything up.
What do you think is the most need, I guess, or the biggest reason that people actually seek out feng shui in the first place?
I think people are getting to a point where they're able to perceive their environment a little bit better. And because of that, we're starting to feel some discomfort in places that we didn't realize. So I think feng shui is really going to become more popular really soon because as we become more sensitive to energy, we go all these places and we absorb this energy from other people. And we're starting to kind of become aware of that. So once we become aware of the energy we're accepting from other people, then the next logical step would be to get in alignment with our energetic space at home. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of control when we go to work or we go to the store or an appointment. But like I said in the beginning, we've got our little space and it's really up to us to make it energetically pleasing for us. I know we've all been places where you walk through the door and it's like this heavy feeling, you just get this
Mm-hmm.
instant feel of dread. And even if you love the people, like, everything is wonderful. You look forward to the conversations, but you just step through that door and it just weighs on you. And that's the energy of the room. That's what feng shui is for. So
And with
the last thing you want is to come home and feel heavy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, your home should be your sanctuary where you feel safe and comforted. And we've all heard the saying that your space, your living space, is an extension of your mind, right? Which is why people always say you shouldn't be cluttered because it clutters your mind when you have clutter at home. So yeah, okay.
Yes, absolutely. So we are all joined by the Trinity, mind, body, and spirit, and you can't have a clean mind and a cluttered home. And there, science is slowly catching up to some of these things, but you'll be able to find studies where they're actually released that people that have cluttered corners, like if you just have a place in your kitchen where you throw all your mail and all your bills and things like that, they're telling people to get rid of that pie because every time you see it, it's actually triggering anxiety.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
I think everybody has done that. That's a really great example because everybody's done that. And then you look at the
Hmm.
stat, and you're like, you didn't open the mail because you didn't have the capacity, you didn't want to, whether there's everything's benign in there or not. You just didn't want to exert the energy toward it. And it just kind of sits there and unfortunately gnaws at you.
Hmm. Hmm. We had that in the ADHD and women episode where we talked about these hot spots that everybody has, right? Where it's the clutter here or the pile there, and it's usually around the kitchen area. I have a hotspot room. It's an entire room, and it's called my office. It's just everything gets piled in there. And yeah, that is the room where it is very hard to have a clear thought. And now I catch myself that I work on my dining room table instead of on my desk. Why is that? Because there's clutter on my desk. So yeah. Hmm.
You've made that space heavy, so you're avoiding it because, like you said, a cluttered space is a cluttered mind.
Hmm.
It's very true. And if you go deep into feng shui, they even get into like closet space and the places you don't readily see. So it just depends on how deep you really want to go. Because all of these modalities from all of these different regions and philosophies, they all go pretty deep. And I've recently gotten into the more Eastern philosophies. And as somebody that's been born and raised in America, it's fascinating. It's
Hmm.
fascinating to see, how other people perceive energies. because in America, we're very opinionated and
Yeah.
we're always right.
Right.
So to see another perspective was really refreshing. And that's kind of how the end came, because I was like, why are we divided? Why is there Eastern and Western when all of this is the same piece? It's all pieces of the same puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
and I liken it to if you sit down to do 1,000-piece puzzle and there's 750 pieces, are you going to be able to complete that puzzle? Are you going
Mm-hmm.
to see the picture? So all
Right.
this division is intentional, and that's kind of what I'm striving for, is to bridge that and create unity in the philosophies so we can see a whole picture,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. Absolutely. I see this every time I do an episode, and it doesn't matter what the subject is. It could be totally like out there, and you see that, oh wait, that's connected to this other thing, and this is connected, and it's like you said, it really is a puzzle that all goes together. But yeah, if we shun down a subject that we're then leaving out this complete piece, it we'll never get to see the true beautiful picture at the end. What are some very common, well, first of all, what is the most important room in a house in your opinion?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. I'm very partial to the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I love the kitchen. It's where I make things with love to nurture my family. It's where I find my creativity. My mother never taught me how to cook, so I was afraid of the kitchen for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually had a cottage food business in 2024, and I learned how to make everything, everything, everything from scratch. It was very empowering for me. And so now the kitchen is my place.
Mm-hmm.
But it really depends again on the intention and what you're looking for. Each room has its own place energetically.
Mm-hmm. What are some really common red flags that you see where if you would go into my house and you would see that, you would be like, no, take this out immediately.
So we can probably do this in a dual way. So I will do the red flags, but what I will do is I will tell you how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
That way everybody can go through and say, oh, I'm doing that. This is what I do to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So something that we don't think about is the stagnant air in the house, especially like I live in Florida. It's super hot, like 9 months out of the year, the humidity. Um, but opening your windows every morning and just letting some fresh air go through, if you are keeping stagnant air in your house for that 9 months at a time, it adds up, it builds up, and it's holding stagnant energy there. So if you open your window just a little bit, just maybe like an hour in the morning, it'll help clear that stagnant air. So, and hopefully not work the air conditioner too much.
Yeah.
Another way is your entryway. So your chi or your life force energy, it enters through your entryways. So this one's a little tricky because everybody keeps shoes by the door. Like I stopped wearing shoes in my house because it can bring in residual energy. So
Mm-hmm.
then the problem becomes, where do you leave your shoes? Because you can't leave that energy, that mismatched energy at your entryway, because that's where your chi enters your dwelling. And you don't want to stagnate or disturb that. So we kind of keep ours in our garage, but I want to kind of move them a little away from the entryway. But your
Mm-hmm.
front entryway, your garage, any way that you enter the home should be cleared. You don't want to have I mean, decoration is okay as long as it's simple and it's not overwhelming. But you want it to be clear because that's where your energy comes and goes. So, another problem we have in today's society is all the LED lights, all the blue light, the screen lights. It is not good. It is not good for us. It actually excites the nervous system and can actually put you into kind of a low grade fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole awakening is about calming the nervous system and getting out of that fight or flight and the fear mentality that we've all been conditioned to live in. So if you can find any yellow lights, warm lights, those will calm your nervous system. But the more LEDs you have, you may find yourself anxious. And if you
Mm-hmm.
have a room where there's LED and there's one where there's a warm light, I invite you to think about how you feel in each room. So here's one that I started a few years back. Um, who gets up in a rush for work and everything gets thrown everywhere. You run out the door and you didn't make your bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the simplest thing in the world. It only takes a moment, but it's a big deal because your bed stabilizes your energy, and it's a signal of completion once you've finished your rest cycle to make that bed. Another thing would be to remove anything from a heavy corner. So if you walk through your home, you don't have to be an expert. Just kind of think of how you feel. I'm walking through the room. Do I feel positive over here? Do I feel negative? Is it light? Is it heavy? Like we were talking about, you go into a doctor's office and you feel heavy. Do you get that in your home? It's just kind of becoming attuned. So if you find like a heavy corner, it might have some of that clutter in it, you know?
Mm.
So just understand one object can shift a whole field. So any of that clutter, you don't have to do everything in a day, but make an effort, take an action, and try and clear a little bit up and just do a little bit every day. And then you'll feel it energetically when you get it where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, they always talk about adding something living. Like a lot of times, our more modern decor is kind of harsh. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
bleached out. There's not a lot of color. It's all, grayscale, white, gray, black. So, a lot of times with those environments, it helps to add a little bit of something living, some wood or fire. So, like a plant, a candle flame, fresh flowers. You just kind of want to bring life into the space that just seems empty.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we already talked about your supporting directions. So, like if you know which corner you need to face for your desk or your computer, and then there's all kinds of ways that that can be applied as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I I have a lot in my house. I have a lot of, I call them the twilight zones, because it's those in between spaces, where you're not quite sure in which room you are, and they're all very dark. So I always feel like I need to sage them, because I feel like this is where things just collect, energetic wise, not even clutter. Would it be beneficial to illuminate those dark corners and put a light in there?
Yeah, candlelight, like I said, more of like a golden light.
Mm,
You can also use plants and mirrors as well to
mm.
redirect energy.
Okay. Ooh, I got a question about the mirror. So, mirror facing the bed, yes or no?
No, no, don't face the bed. No, the mirror's intention is to redirect the energy. So if you have a heavy corner, or like I said, it's something where you can't, because of your space, rearrange it favorably. If you have to put something in an unfavorable direction, you can actually adjust the mirror to where it will reflect that energy away from like your bed or your desk into another direction. So it's about redirecting
Hmm.
the energy, but you definitely don't want to amplify it into the direction you want to be in.
Hmm. What's up with the red front door?
The red front door, I don't know. That one I'm not sure about. Oh, I I'm not sure. I don't have an answer.
I've heard something about it's for prosperity, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that one I haven't. I mean, I see them all the time, but I have not.
Yeah, I've had some, and in this neighborhood we do have a lot of Asian folks, and you can tell that the front yard is set up completely different. You can see the shoes are outside. They're in front of the door. They do not bring in their shoes in the house. Sometimes I see these lion statues around it, and a bonsai tree that is placed very specifically from the front door. So it's very fascinating to me, because I look at it and I'm like, this all has a purpose. This probably has some symbolism going on.
And that's the disconnected information, between countries and areas of geography. You know, they don't use the same kind of astrology as we do either.
Mm,
They actually use, I think it's Baze. I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, but it's the four pillars of destiny, and it's more elemental than
mhm,
astrological, but that is their Eastern astrology. So it gives you a completely different reading than you would get from Western astrology, which is fascinating.
mhm. Yeah. So you Or also, we're going to switch a little bit because that is not just what you do. You do a whole lot of other things. And I let you explain it because, again, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it sounded like you do readings in terms of all these different elements. And we've had some on the show. We've had astrology on the show. We've had human design on the show. We had tarot and all these things, right? And you created a system to combine these things and make things more clear, which I absolutely love. So tell us a little bit about what exactly is this and how does that work?
So, the beginning of this year, probably about March, I got some downloads. I tend to be overwhelmed, but this one felt so important that I couldn't let go of it. I'm extremely neurodivergent, so focus is an issue. If I really love something, maybe about a month of my attention, if I'm really, really into it. This I sat down for 3 months solid and wrote. I didn't eat right. I did shower every day, ignored things I shouldn't have, but it was purposeful and it was something that I was
Hmm.
supposed to do. So I call it the Enchiridion, which means like your manual or your blueprint. And essentially, it is your personalized soul blueprint. It's a kind of spiritual biography that shows you how your energy is designed to move through the world. So most readings will focus on just one system, like astrology or human design, but people are not one dimensional. We're multi-dimensional beings. We're layered, we're complex, and we're influenced by many parts of creation all at once. So the Enchiridion actually brings four ancient systems together. It's the Western astrology, the human design, the Bazi, and Feng Shui. And it translates them into one clear, readable story of who you are, how you're wired, how you grow, and how your environment affects you. So each system answers a different question. You've got astrology, which shows you your emotional landscape and some natural gifts that we all have. You've got human design, which explains your energy, how it works day to day for you, how you make decisions, how you communicate, and basically how you move through life. The Bazi reveals the elemental balance and the seasons that your life are in. And then Feng Shui shows you your environmental relation to energy and what supports you and what drains you. So, as much as I would love to say that this is the final version, it is not because I keep getting called to put more pieces in. So,
Hmm.
this is probably part one. Part two of it that will be coming soon. I want to work in more divination, like the tarot. I didn't really get to numerology, which is humongously important. Um, so everything grows, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But the real magic in the book, and it is quite a book. It's mine is 695 pages. Is in the integration chapters. So these chapters will show you patterns that repeat across all four systems. So we're talking like your leadership, your spiritual gifts, emotional needs, purpose, and the environments where your soul will thrive.
Hmm.
So it's super exciting. We even get in. I have a whole chapter on like the ikigai, which is Japanese for like your soul's purpose. So that's something else that the Enchiridion offers that other readings don't. You'll get a single reading is like a single piece of the story, but the Enchiridion is your whole story. It's the way all the energies work together, where they harmonize, where they clash, and trying to find true alignment with the original design that you chose.
Hmm.
It's it's really kind of cool. And then the book itself, I do have mine here. I actually create a soul mandala that is the cover of your book when you get it. So they are all different, and it actually you set it on your coffee table, and it's an activation. So every time you read the book, we'll have a conversation with somebody and it doesn't land. Somebody tries to give us advice and we just shrug it off. Or we've
Hmm.
watched somebody do that when we give them really good advice. So this book, it stays with you and it activates you when you're ready. And
Hmm.
I have to tell you, I don't ever read it without just crying like a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those every time you pick it up, you read something you're supposed to read that day. It's fascinating because if you do read into natal charts of astrology, and then there's gene keys, and then there's human design, and it's all these things, and they flow together, and there's, I don't know, a million different other things you can do. It gets, I mean, sometimes there's things that align, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, this is through all of the different systems that says the same thing about me. And sometimes it doesn't. And it gets a little complicated and you get lost in it, right? And it sounds like you, with bringing all of that together, even though it's massive, it sounds like it brings maybe a little bit of more clarity in there because it works with all of them together.
Yes, and that's the hope, is because if you're, and a good example is for me, my Western astrology, I have a lot of fire, a lot of fire.
Mm-hmm.
But in my Bazi, in my Eastern astrology, I am actually a water day master, and I actually have a fire deficiency. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting to see the way that these systems complement each other. And so for me, I know that I have a lot of intuition and a lot of flow, and the fire that I have actually makes my flow for my water really strong, but then that makes me need more earth to be the container for that water. So it's it's just amazing that all these things, like you said, link together. And we're just not looking at the whole picture.
Yeah. How was this for you when you realized all of these different things? And was there ever anything where it was hard for you to identify with it?
What do you mean by identify with it?
So you read something and you're like, oh, I don't know. Do I feel that way? Does this fit, or is it sometimes it takes a little longer to digest?
So no is the short answer.
Hmm.
Every time I open it up, I feel it. I feel bonded to it. I do feel like it is just me.
Hmm.
There's, even if something doesn't make sense, I mean, this isn't a manual in the way that it's going to tell you exactly what to do on what day and what decision to make. It's going to tell you what your energies are like and what is favorable for you. Ultimately, everything, every action that you take is your decision. And all divination and readings and all those things can do is nudge you in the right direction. And hopefully, they help you take an action, because the worst thing that we can do in our awakening is to do nothing.
Hmm.
So, this is just meant as a guide to give you direction and maybe some clarity. But it's interesting because Bazi actually has, they're called the luck pillars. So it's a decade sets every 10 years. And there's elements in those and animals, and you relate it to what your animals and elements are. And it will actually tell you what kind of decade you're going to have. And mine actually was crazy because I actually was disabled for 3 years. I was bedridden for about 6 months. I went through a lot of health problems. And when I went back to my Bazi, it called it out. I mean, it didn't say you're going to be disabled, you're going to have, it didn't do
Right.
that. It wasn't that specific. But that it will call out decades of your life where you will struggle, where you are prone to illness. And it's not going to tell you how to fix it. It's going to tell you it's coming. And then it is up to you to prepare.
Hmm.
But having that knowledge and knowing, oh, okay, when I turn 56, between 56 and 64, I need to have my eyes wide open because this and this has potential energetically in those 10 years is amazing. It's a cheat sheet, even if there's not specifics. If you knew you were going to go into a decade where your body was going to be susceptible to illness, then you could prepare for that. You could eat healthier, you could exercise more. You could go do yoga, work on energetic movement and your chakras. I mean,
Yeah.
that knowledge is invaluable as long as you take action.
Hmm. Yeah. So how does this work? Somebody comes to you and says, I want this. I want you to make this for me, kind of write this reading, this handbook. And then what do you need? And then what's the next step?
So I actually sell them on my website. And it is an 11-week journey to yourself.
Uh-huh.
So we interact every week as I'm creating it. These take me about a month and a half to make because, like I said, mine's 695 pages. I edit everything myself. So it does take some time. So it's a journey. It's a journey that we take together. Every week we'll have interactions, and then I will deliver your book to you. And then after your book is delivered, usually around um, week 6, then we will have 2 sessions, one-on-one after that to help integrate the material, to give you a little bit of time to read it and ask me questions so that we can just kind of kick it back and forth to see what your intention is, what you're looking for, and what I can help you with. And then I also have options to add on additional integration sessions after that if you feel it would be beneficial.
So every book is going to obviously look different and could also be different in size, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I do have an outline I try to stick to because
Hmm.
otherwise it would be so big I wouldn't be able to edit it myself.
Right.
There's never an end to the information. It's just
Mm.
what are you seeking?
Yeah. Awesome. And how does this usually look like when people do that? Is that profound life changes for them? Do their big, because I can imagine shifts are not always comfortable, right? We sometimes have to face things that maybe we're trying to avoid, and that's why we didn't get there on our own. So how does this journey usually look like?
In the beginning, it's kind of confusing because it is a ton of information to try and understand where you're used to getting, a tarot reading or, a basic astrological reading, and then you get a 700-page book.
Hmm.
You're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know. Do I read a certain chapter first?
Yeah.
So I think in the beginning, it's overwhelming and confusing, which is why the journey is so helpful. And I think with this book, it's not about the totality, it's about the moment. We waste so much of our lives in the past or planning the future that we don't live in the present moment. And the purpose of this book is to bring you to the present moment. And if you can connect with it at the present moment, then it will teach you things. But I always tell people, don't read it front to back. Don't read it cover to cover because it's not going to land. You're not going to get what you're supposed to get. And I mean, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But just understand you're going to read that book over and over and over again. And
Hmm.
every time you open it, you're going to receive a different message. And that's the beauty of it is it's limitless and it's based on your intention, your awareness, and where you are at in your journey right now. So there's no wrong answer. It's fine to be confused. It's fine to be overwhelmed. Just pick one spot. I actually had a lady that she didn't know where to start. So have you ever seen anybody do the readings where they kind of flip through the book like A Course in Miracles or something like that and they just pick a page and read it?
Yeah.
She was doing that with the Enchiridion
Okay.
because she was like, okay, what do I need to know today? And she opened it and flipped the pages and that was how she got her information.
Hmm.
So there's no wrong answer.
Yeah. I probably would have done that. I probably would have done that. I was like, okay, what's today? Awesome. Yes, that's fascinating. And I love that you, like with so many other things we talk about on the show, it's these things are not necessarily things you want to do on your own, right? It's everybody can throw stuff in the internet and have some machine do it for you, but then you don't know what to do with it. It's you need the expert that guides you through this and almost like decodes that together with you because yeah, it is very overwhelming.
It is. It's a tremendous amount of information. Even for me, I started writing it and I was not familiar with the Eastern philosophies. So I'm learning them as I'm writing it. So it was a tremendous amount of information, which is
Hmm.
why about half of the book is reference. I have, I think, 11 appendices in it so that while you're reading it, if you don't know what something is, you can reference it because otherwise people would be so lost they wouldn't understand it, which defeats the purpose.
Right. Well, anything we haven't talked about this today that you want to share? Because this is all very new to me too. So I'm trying to, understand. But like you said, it's a lot. It's a lot of information.
It is. It is. So the one thing I would probably like to share is where it's going. I'm always kind of, like I said, getting all these downloads. So trying to figure out what's next. What can I materialize? So I grew up, I did not have a good relationship with my parents. And
Mhm.
because of that, when I had children, it was kind of hard for me to relate to them and really be there in the way that I wanted to because I just didn't understand how. And so there's been a disconnect. And so the future of the Enchiridion, other than part two, is to kind of be a manual for parents. So I have everybody has some kid that is just a little problematic that just needs a little extra, and they might be acting out at school, or just they're not getting what they need on some level, and we don't understand how to give it to them. As hard as we try as parents, it's not for lack of love or effort. It's just we can't connect. We don't understand where they're coming from, so we don't know where to meet them.
Mhm.
So the future of the Enchiridion is also going to be a parenting manual. So if you have a child that is having behavioral issues that you just can't connect with, you don't understand where to meet them, because sometimes we're just in different places.
Mhm.
I can make an Enchiridion for your child, and it would be in the tone of a parenting manual to teach you how their energies work and where to meet them. It will tell you where they're coming from, and then it will give you how to meet them there, how they can receive the message, because we just tend to kind of talk over each other instead of to each other when you get in those
Mhm.
types of dynamics. And so my heart is really in the second version, which is more of a parenting manual. I know when I was a kid, my parents didn't know what to do with me, and I ended up medicated for a large part of my childhood, and that hurt me deeply. And I want to offer a resource to any parents that might be at that point where they just don't know what else to do, and they
Mhm.
don't want to resort to medications. They know it's not the answer, but the school is telling you they're acting out and they can't be here, and you have to go to work, and you just want what's best for your kid, and you don't know what that is. So that's the future, and where my heart is just to helping the next generation of kids that are coming into this very harsh world where they're told what to do, when to do it, and their energies just don't align with it. And the parents don't know how to help them. But we have so much energetic awareness coming in these future generations. And a lot of our older generations, it was kind of muffled. And we were told to be quiet, to not talk about it, to just, speak. And this next generation of kids is going to be so pivotal in the awakening that's coming. We really need to work on letting them speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something we oversee a lot about, that energetic work, the understanding who they really are and who they're supposed to be versus just looking at physical stuff. Even just mentally, psychologically, physically. Yeah, we're getting better with those things, but the soul level is still something that's extremely overlooked because it's just, yeah, people just say it's just woo woo, you know.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
science is catching up. They're just really slow. They're really slow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's where is the funding also going, you know? Do we really want to do that or do we want to do something that makes us money? So I mean that yeah, yeah. That's a whole nother.
That is the problem with healing in a capitalist society, is it
Mhm.
doesn't behoove them to heal anybody, because
Yeah.
they go bankrupt.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a lot to do with why we only get a partial picture. They don't want us to know everything, because then we wouldn't need them.
Mhm. Yeah, and knowing all of it is to really stepping in your own power, and when you understand your own power, that's very, very scary for the big people above, that want to try to control you, and then as soon as you figure out that you can't be controlled because you're so powerful, that's not good knowledge to be out there.
Yes, especially when, the whole point is to come into your power and share that so you can illuminate others and teach them to come into their power. So, yeah, you're kind of lighting a fuse that they don't want lit.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and that's where you come in. That's what you do. You show people what their true power is, and to just really arrive at yourself, and to know yourself, and to understand yourself. And that is the first step that you need, right? To understand your own true gifts too. And that's a beautiful thing that you do. That you offer, like you said, that program where you take someone by the hand. You're not just like, yeah, here's a good book, bye. It's like, no, no, no. I'm going to help you decipher all of this and unlock the secret, kind of.
And I'll tell you, personally, it has been the biggest gift for me because everybody is a mirror and we heal through each other. If you were just left isolated by yourself, your healing would be extremely limited. I mean, we hate when we get triggered, when we get mad or sad, but that's showing us our shadow. That's showing us what we need to heal. So if you never
Mhm.
got triggered, if you never left your isolation, you wouldn't be capable of healing all the spots you can't see. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love and adore this work because every person that I help shows me how to heal myself. So it's so
Uh,
rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all mirrors to each other. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you would like to mention?
Let's see here. If anybody has not tried ceremonial cacao, I also do dabble in that. It is absolutely fabulous. I get mine from Holy Wow Cacao out in Guatemala. It's a very small collective. There are many wonderful farms, but do make sure you do your research on your source. Source is so important with what we put in our bodies. But if you have not discovered cacao, I invite you to replace your coffee today.
Yeah. I agree. I
So,
agree. I love cacao.
and I do have a couple of books also on Amazon available. They're just kind of little starter books, just to see if you're interested in something. Just if you something has floated into your mind. I've got one on the cacao, I've got one on vision boards, on some manifestation techniques, but they're very small. Just like I said, it's to see if you're interested.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to link all of your information in the show notes so people can find you and work with you and you know look at your page and see what you have to offer, and then also reach out if there's any questions, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that might have some questions about things that maybe you offer. So that's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Jess.
Thank you for having me. This is such a wonderful opportunity. I feel so blessed. Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking your time out of your busy day. And because I know you have to be busy when you write books that are, 600 plus pages for people. That's a wow. That's a job. And yeah, everything is going to link in the show notes. And thank you so much. So, yeah, everybody, like, subscribe, do all the things. Share this with a friend that you think might needs to hear this and you think needs to go see Jess. And we're going to be here next week. Bye. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, a review, and share it with somebody you think needs this. Have a fabulous day. See you next time.